The storm came without warning, tearing through the night with a viciousness that felt almost personal, as if the wind itself had decided to scream every grief the world had buried. In the midst of that chaos, Rowan staggered through the forest, soaked and trembling, clutching a sprig of rosemary he had carried for 3 years, the last reminder of the girl who had vanished before his eyes in a burst of silver light. He never told anyone what he saw that night because no one would believe that a human boy had once fallen in love with a being made of moonlight. But he remembered every detail: the fragrance of rosemary she pressed into his hand, the warmth of her touch, and the heartbreaking promise that she would return when the world needed her again. Tonight, the same strange glow shimmered between the trees, pulling him forward with a force that felt like destiny. Before the story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the magic that still exists in forgotten places, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps stories like this continue to find the hearts longing to hear them. Rowan had grown up in the village of Eldenmere, a place wrapped in legends that everyone treated as gentle bedtime tales. But he knew differently. When he was 15, he met Lyria, a mysterious girl with silver white hair, iridescent eyes, and a presence that felt too warm, too soft, too luminous to belong to the ordinary world. She saved him from a landslide during a summer storm and disappeared just as quickly as she arrived, leaving behind only the rosemary sprig and the memory of her voice promising that their paths would cross again. Over time, his family dismissed his story as grief-woven imagination, especially after his mother fell ill and passed away during a harsh winter. Losing her darkened something inside him, and the village began to see him as distant, withdrawn, a young man who carried too many storms in his eyes. But Rowan held on to the rosemary and the faint hope that perhaps wonders still existed, even if the world had stolen so much from him. For years, he searched the forest edges and mountain paths, tracing the places he once saw her light. He learned the ways of herbs, healing, and the old lore whispered by the elders. The villagers thought he sought distraction from his grief, but Rowan knew he was gathering knowledge for something else, something bigger. The forest itself seemed to respond to him differently as he grew older, as if recognizing him. Leaves trembled when he passed, winds quieted around him, and once he thought he saw a figure watching him beneath a willow tree, slender, shimmering, and familiar. But when he'd approached, it dissolved into silver dust. Tonight felt different. The storm rolling across Eldamere shook the earth in a way that stirred old fears in the people. Animals fled, the river rose dangerously high, and lightning carved scars of incandescent fire across the sky. Rowan sensed something older was awakening, something Lyria had warned him about the night she vanished. She told him the forest was protected by ancient guardians, but their strength was fading. A time would come when darkness would try to claim the heart of Eldenmere, and when that moment arrived, she would return. It was that promise that pulled Rowan back into the storm tonight. The rosemary sprig held tightly as he followed the pulse of silver light deeper into the forest. He found her near the old stone circle, the place where legends claimed the veil between worlds was thinnest. Lyria looked unchanged, glowing skin, hair shimmering like frost under moonlight, eyes filled with galaxies Rowan had never fully understood. But there was sorrow in her expression, a quiet ache that had never been there before. Her presence filled the air with warmth that fought the cold wind, and Rowan felt a calmness bloom in his chest, soothing the storms he carried. She wasn't human, he knew that, but the bond he felt with her went beyond the rules of either world. Lyria explained that the storm was not a natural one. A shadow had awakened beneath Eldamere, feeding on despair, old wounds, and forgotten dreams. The guardians of her realm had weakened, and now the darkness sought to spread into the human world. Only something born of both realms, something linked by trust, love, and sacrifice, could stop it. Rowan realized with a quiet shock that she meant him. The rosemary sprig she had given him was not a token of memory, it was a seed of magic, a connection between their worlds, kept alive by his unwavering belief in her return. His grief, his loneliness, his hope, all had nurtured its power. Together, they journeyed through the storm shaken forest. The trees bent as if whispering warnings, the air thickened with tension, and the shadows grew darker, almost alive. Rowan felt fear clawing up his spine, but Lyria's light pushed it back. She revealed pieces of her world as they walked, a realm made of light currents and living constellations where guardians watched over the balance between human hearts and nature's spirit. She had taken form in Rowan's world out of curiosity years ago, but meeting him had changed her path. His kindness, his gentle strength, had drawn her in ways she never expected. But love between their kinds was forbidden. When she saved him as a teenager, she broke an ancient law, which was why she had been forced to vanish. That revelation struck Rowan deeply. He had spent years believing she left because fate had torn them apart, never knowing she had paid a price for saving him. A mixture of guilt and gratitude washed over him. But Lyria touched his hand lightly, her glow softening, and the storm around them quieted as though respecting the truth being released after so many years. Rowan realized then that love didn't need form or rules or logic. It only needed two hearts brave enough to choose it despite everything. They reached the heart of the forest where a chasm had opened, breathing darkness like smoke. The air trembled with the weight of ancient magic. Rowan felt his pulse quicken, his breath turning shallow. The shadow rose, vast and shifting, made of all the fears humans buried and all the regrets Lyria's world could no longer contain. Rowan sensed it reaching for his mind, trying to twist his memories, to convince him he was worthless, powerless, broken. For a terrifying moment, he felt himself slipping into the pain of losing his mother, the loneliness of being misunderstood, the heartbreak of Lyria's disappearance. But then he felt her hand slip into his, grounding him, anchoring him. Her warmth cut through the darkness, reminding him that he was enough, that he had grown, healed, and become someone capable of standing against the storm. Lyria asked him to give her the rosemary sprig. Rowan hesitated. It had been his hope, his anchor, but he finally let it go, trusting her completely. When she pressed it to her heart, a blinding light erupted, weaving their energies together. Rowan felt magic surge through him, warm, ancient, and deeply familiar, as the sprig transformed into a radiant beam that wrapped around the shadow. The darkness shrieked, pulling back, but Rowan stepped forward, pouring every ounce of courage, love, and memory into the light. The shadow thrashed violently, trying to break free, but the combined power of human resilience and guardian magic overwhelmed it. In a thunderous crack, the darkness shattered, dissolving into dust that drifted harmlessly into the storm. The earth stilled, the winds calmed, the air shimmered with gentle silver dust that glowed like fireflies settling over the forest. Rowan fell to his knees, exhausted but alive, while Lyria knelt beside him, her touch soft as the first snow of winter. The Guardian's magic began to stabilize, weaving itself back into the world, but something in her expression made Rowan's heart clench. Lyria explained that merging the Rosemary's magic with her own came with a cost. She had tied part of her existence to the human world, meaning she could never return fully to her realm again. She would live between worlds, unable to belong entirely to either. Rowan's heart twisted at the thought, but Lyria looked at him with a tender certainty, as though she had already accepted the path her choice carved. She said she had seen countless stars, countless lives, countless destinies, but none glowed the way his courage did. If the price of saving Eldenmere meant staying by his side, then she embraced it. Rowan felt something inside him finally heal, a wound he carried since childhood, replaced now with warmth, hope, and a future he never thought he deserved. They walked back toward the village as dawn began breaking, the storm fading into soft hues of peach and gold. Birds began to sing cautiously, as if testing the safety of a new world. Eldemir's villagers stepped out of their homes in confusion, whispering about the strange calm after the terrifying night. They saw Rowan return with a mysterious glowing girl beside him, and though fear flickered across their faces, something about her warm presence made even the skeptics pause. The land felt lighter, almost renewed, as if the forest itself had taken a deep breath for the first time in centuries. As the day unfolded, Rowan and Lyria stood at the forest's edge, watching the sunlight filter through the leaves. They knew their journey was only beginning, that challenges, doubts, and whispers would soon rise, but they also knew that the love they shared had already survived storms fierce enough to shatter worlds. And for those willing to look closely, they would see a sprig of rosemary blooming softly over Rowan's heart, glowing with the same silver green light that connected him forever to the girl made of stardust. If this story touched your heart, even for a moment, I hope you'll like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps more emotional stories like this reach those who need them. And before we end, I have one special request. Comment below what part of this story stayed with you the most, and why. As the forest whispered its blessings and the village began a new chapter, Rowan and Lyria stepped forward together, no longer bound by fear or fate, but by a love powerful enough to bridge worlds, all beginning with a single, fragile sprig of rosemary.